Welcome to Search for Signs. My name is Gary Willing. If this information interests you, please press the like and subscribe button and press the bell for notifications. Hope you're having a great day today. It is February 11th, 2020. Last year at some point, and for the life of me, I can't remember the exact date. I guess it doesn't really matter. I put up a video talking about angels. And I shared my view, which is coming more from the esoteric side of things, that these masters are not mysterious winged creatures that are, have blonde hair and white robes and so forth. But these angels are none other than the masters themselves, who save us from all sorts of trouble and injury and death even sometimes, or inspire us through a crisis in our own life or whatever it happens to be. And I also was talking about a article that was written many, many moons ago in Newsweek, that they polled a bunch of people that they asked them, not only do you believe in angels, but do you believe you actually had an authentic angelic experience, whether you were saved or had a kind of inspiring, touching kind of experience about thinking that and attributing it back to angels. And out of the 10 people or thousands of people that were polled, 7 or 8 out of 10 people said that they believe that they have actually had some kind of angelic experience. Now, if that were true, maybe not all of them, maybe some of them, made it up in their own mind or whatever, but let's just say the vast majority of them have. So that would be like maybe 50, 60%, 40, 50% of the people out there have actually had an angelic experience. And if what I'm saying is true, that esoterically angel sightings and so forth are none other than masters, then that would mean that there are millions of people out there that have actually been helped, saved, or inspired, personally by one or other of these masters. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up is that last week I had an experience that I'm pretty sure, about 99.9% sure, I was saved by Maitreya. Back in the day, if I had an experience like this, I would actually reach out to Benjamin Creme and ask him, and he would say yes or no, maybe so, or whatever. And then I would invariably ask, well, which master was the one that saved me, right? But what happened was, and unfortunately I can't ask him now because he's passed away, but anyway, so I just wanted to kind of share this and let you think for yourself about it or whatever. But I was working outside my house, and I'm in my driveway, working and standing on maybe a 6-foot ladder, 7-foot ladder. And the ladder's aluminum, so it wasn't quite that sturdy, but I guess it's sturdy enough because I've never fallen off of it before. But this time, I was up on the very, very second to the top rung of the ladder. So the step that it's okay to step on, you don't want to step on the very top step, right? So I was on the second to the top step. And I was trying to fix something on the side of my house, and I actually dropped one of the tools, and it landed, of course, in the driveway. And as I stepped down to retrieve it, the ladder started to rock. And it happened so fast, I couldn't even grab the side of my house to kind of slow it down. And not that there's really that much to even grab on at that point in that part of my house. But anyway, so I just kind of started noticing that I was falling, right? I mean, the whole ladder tipped over. And as I was falling, I said some things I wasn't very proud of. But that's pretty natural. I mean, if you see yourself headed toward the concrete and you're way up, in the air, I mean, it's pretty natural, right? So I said some expletive deleteds, and then right when I was about halfway to hitting the ground or hitting the driveway, I yelled out Maitreya. And as soon as I did, it was, I don't know, it was weird. It was like either time slowed down or I slowed down. It was wild. And I was maybe going 20% of the speed that I was falling initially, a tenth of the speed. It really slowed down. And when I hit the concrete, I landed on my right side, but kind of my back, and on my head. Now, had I been falling at the same rate of speed I was initially, it would have really probably done some damage, because I could have really either hurt myself or killed myself at that point, because I'm landing right on concrete, and that stuff's not soft, right? So, but when I landed, I kind of just lied down for a second, and I looked down, and I started thinking to myself, I'm not in pain. I can still move my toes, so that's okay. That's great. I didn't have any cuts or bruises. Nothing ached. In fact, I looked at my jeans and my shirt, and I didn't even have any ripped, scuffed marks in my jeans even, and nothing was even dirty. And I lied there for a second, then I kind of got up and was like, okay, what just happened, right? And then for the rest of the day, I noticed physically I actually felt better after the fall than I did before the fall. So it was kind of wild. Anyway, and if you hear stuff like this and it sounds like something that has happened in your life, more than likely you were saved by one of these angels, which is the masters and so forth. But I'm pretty sure it was Maitreya that saved me this time. But anyway, so thanks for letting me share that. But I also wanted to answer, or there was a couple questions that a gentleman named Jerry Wells asked in a comment on another video. But the first question he asked was the Master Jesus the one that was crucified? I think that's how he put it. Now, to answer his question, technically, yes and no. Okay, so the Master Jesus was Jesus in Palestine who was crucified, but he was not a master at the time that he was crucified, if that makes any sense. He eventually incarnated again as, I think it's pronounced Apollonius or Apollonius of Tyana, a Greek philosopher, and that's when the now Master Jesus became the Master Jesus. And it's funny because there's a lot of controversy about who Apollonius of Tyana was. Was he Jesus, survived from the cross and so forth? It's kind of interesting. But it was actually the next incarnation of Jesus, the last incarnation of Jesus as just a regular person. But Jesus was an extraordinary disciple by any stretch, and it was the first time when he was overshadowed by Maitreya in Palestine. It was the first time that love manifested perfectly in humanity. And it's not going to be the last time, but it was the first time. Just as when Gautama Buddha was overshadowed in the same kind of way by the Buddha, that was the first time that wisdom had manifested perfectly in humanity for the first time. Of course, not the last time, but that was the first time. Now, the esoteric view of the crucifixion and resurrection, okay, is that did actually historically happen, and that is true, that Jesus did die on the cross and was raised from the dead 3 days afterwards, and that's the resurrection, right? But esoterically, the purpose and the meaning behind the crucifixion and resurrection are not what the typical evangelical fundamentalist Christian might believe or would believe, or just a typical, follower of the church would believe. Now, I don't want to get into it too deep because that would mean that I would be going way over on the time that I want to talk to you about this other stuff. So we'll save that for another video, and we'll talk more about that later. But the other question that this Jerry Wells asked was somebody going to take up the work of Benjamin Creme after, now that Benjamin Creme has passed away? Now, Benjamin Creme, for lack of a better phrase, wore a lot of different hats. Now, he, of course, was the spearhead of the information, talking about Maitreya and the Masters of Wisdom, of course, giving lectures, talking on TV and radio and so forth, writing Share International. But he did a lot of other stuff. And the work of making known the presence of Maitreya and the Masters of Wisdom was not only his job, but also the group of people who worked with him, which I'm a part of that group. So even though there might not be other people on YouTube talking about Maitreya, for instance, there are hundreds of people, maybe even thousands of people all around the world speaking, giving lectures, talking to people in their own life about this and so forth. So that part of the work is still going on. Maybe not quite as powerfully effective as it was when Benjamin Creme would do it, but it's going on the pace and the level that it's going on now, so to speak. But the other aspects of what Benjamin Creme did, which I said there was a lot, right? One of which was working hand to hand, moment to moment with a master. I was always under the assumption when he passed away, that type of work and the information and the teaching that would come from his master through him would eventually be coming from one or other of these masters, whether it was Benjamin Creme's own master when he's known for who he is or whatever. But, initially it's going to be Maitreya that's going to be answering those questions, because he's going to be the first one. He's already the first one on TV, but he's going to be the one that's coming out first, right? So that would be the answer to that question. But I know when Benjamin Creme was asked that question, who would take up his work after he passes, I always loved Benjamin Creme's answer. He goes, "I'll be back." So you never know. I mean, it's he might take up the work where he left off. So we'll see. Initially it was supposed to be 5 disciples that did the job that Benjamin Creme did. One in each one of the planetary centers. So Benjamin Creme in London, there was one in Geneva that was asked, there was one in Darjeeling that was asked, one in Tokyo, and one in New York. Now Benjamin Creme always said that the one in New York was the closest to believing it, but didn't. And actually, I believe Benjamin Creme said he actually came to one of his lectures in New York when he was in New York and was kind of mulling it around and was thinking about there was some truth to it. But they were all asked in their own way, but I guess very similar to how Benjamin Creme was asked, but Benjamin Creme was the only one that took up the work. He said the one in Darjeeling was still asleep, whatever that means. The one in Tokyo, he said the woman believed that she was Maitreya, and then the person who was asked in Geneva, I think he said just, if I remember correctly, he said he just didn't believe it. So, but because they have free will, like all of us have free will, the masters aren't going to overly try to persuade you. They're just going to ask you one time and move on. So Benjamin Creme was the only one that took on that work back in the 70s. So I hope this helps and answers the question. But anyway, thanks for everything, and thanks for listening. We look forward to talking to you again. Take care. Remember to take action and help SOP save our planet. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to talking to you again in future videos.